What's happening, you guys? This is the top 10 most shocking plane crashes. Today's common question of the day is, what is your biggest fear? And some of you guys might say getting on planes. So starting off this list, in at number 10, we have the Shoreham Airshow disaster. And this took place August 22nd, 2015, very recent. A vintage jet aircraft crashed during a display at the Shoreham Airshow in England. The disaster resulted in the death of 11 people and injured 16 others. It was one of the deadliest airshows in history. The pilot was flying a Hawker Hunter T7 and it failed to do a complex double loop maneuver that resulted in him crashing into a large number of vehicles on the A27 truck road that happened to be a very busy highway. Footage of the crash shows a large fireball and plume of smoke immediately following this deadly crash. The pilot of this crash miraculously was able to survive, but right now he's still in intensive care. In at number 9, we have the TransAsia Airways Flight 235 crash. Shortly after takeoff back in February 4th, 2015, also happened this year, from Taipei Shangtan Airport, it crashed into the Keelung River. 38 people tragically lost their lives during this event. The pilot on the plane reported an engine flameout 2 minutes into the flight that resulted in the plane rapidly descending. Viral footage from the day shows the plane moments before it crashed into the river. The footage of the plane actually shows the plane make a sharp left turn and clip a taxi on the highway with its wings before crashing into the Hong Kong viaduct. Malaysia Airlines Flight 370 makes its way into number 8. And this took place March 8th, 2014. The international passenger flight was flying from Malaysia to the Chinese capital Beijing when it seemingly vanished without a trace. The aircraft carried 239 people on board when it disappeared off the radar. They were all presumed dead, making this one of the most deadliest aviator disasters in history. A multinational search effort began in the South China Sea to look for any debris from the crash. Just recently, debris from the plane has been recovered in the Maldives. Moving its way to number 7, we're talking about the American Airlines Flight 191. And this took place on May 25th, 1979. The DC10 plane was on its route from Chicago to Los Angeles. During takeoff, one of the engine planes malfunctioned, causing one of the wing's hydraulics to not work, which essentially flipped the plane as it took off. All 258 passengers, 13 crew members, and 2 people on the ground were killed. At the time, this was the deadliest aviation crash to have occurred in the United States. With the safety regulations that were in place, plane disasters in the US were really rare. So seeing something like this was astonishing. Another North American tragedy makes its way into the number 6 spot, and of course I'm talking about Air India Flight 182. And this took place on June 23rd, 1985. A bomb destroyed the Boeing 747 plane, flying out of Canada at the altitude of 31,000 feet. It crashed into the Atlantic Ocean near Ireland. A total of 329 people died in the crash, including 268 Canadians. The incident was the largest mass murder in Canadian history. It was also one of the deadliest terrorist attacks in the world as well at that time. Canadian law enforcement determined that the terrorist group involved were Sikh militants known as Babar Khalsa. Turkish Airlines Flight 981 makes its way into number 5. On March 3rd, 1974, another DC-10 plane carrying 346 people on board crashed outside of Paris, France, killing everyone on board. At the time, it was the deadliest plane crash ever. The crash became known as the Ermenonville air disaster from the force in which the plane crashed in. The crash was caused from a faulty cargo door that could not be properly secured before takeoff, which resulted in the plane being off balance. DC-10 planes were soon blacklisted after the event and generally feared by the public. The Turkey-Dagra Midair collision comes in this list in at number 4. On November 12, 1996, a Saudi Arabia Airlines plane and a Kazakhstan plane collided. Now this is something you do not see every day. They collided mid-air while over India, resulting in both planes crashing and 349 people lost their lives. The crash was the result of a communication error from the Kazakhstan pilot who couldn't speak English. His plane tail clipped the wing of the Saudi Arabian plane, causing those parts to be separated. This was the worst mid-air collision in human history and the deadliest aviation accident in India's history. Coming in at the number 3 spot, we have the worst airplane disaster in Japanese history. And I'm talking about the Japanese airplane Flight 123. And this took place on August 12, 1985. The Japanese passenger plane flying through a mountainous region in Japan experienced explosive decompression caused by poor repairmanship. It crashed in Mount Osaka, killing 505 passengers on the plane. However, 4 people miraculously survived the plane crash. That was a miracle. Apparently many more people could have survived this incident, but the rescue attempt at the time was so delayed. This is still the deadliest single airplane disaster in history. The Tenerife airport disaster makes its way into the number 2 spot. On March 27, 1977, 2 Boeing 747's planes crashed into each other. And this is while being on the runway, killing off 583 passengers on on board. The disaster was due to a series of unfortunate events and poor planning. It started with the bomb explosion at the Gran Canaria airport, which was the intent destination for both planes, which caused them to divert to Tenerife airport. While there was thick fog rolled into the airport, which greatly reduced the visibility for all parties, one of the pilots thought it was time for him to leave. He took off and he smacked right into the plane. Fortunately, from this event, we now have better regulations in place at all international airports, so something like this will never ever happen again. Last but not least, this unfortunate tragic tragedy doesn't need any introductions, but of course I'm talking about the 9/11 attack. And this comes in to number 1. On the morning of September 11, 2001, 4 passenger planes was hijacked by 2 terrorists. 2 of the 4 planes crashed into the World Trade Center towers in New York City, causing both buildings to collapse. The 3rd plane crashed into the Pentagon and the 4th plane crashed into the field in Pennsylvania. In total, the attacks claimed the lives of 2,996 people and caused about $10 billion of property damages. It was also the deadliest incidents for firefighters and police in the history of the United States, causing nearly 500 deaths. This was the deadliest plane crash ever and has forever changed our world. Well, there you guys have it. That was the top 10 deadliest plane crashes. Hopefully I didn't scare you guys to get on a plane. Like I said, these are very rare occurrences. But thank you guys so much for watching this video, and I'll see you guys where we do this all over again in the next one. So let me know what you guys think of this video. If you guys liked it, there's more videos on the side of me. There's 2 of them waiting for you to click on. You guys can continue watching most amazing top 10 videos. And if you guys like this one, hit that like button as well. And let me know, what is your biggest fear? Hopefully it's not getting onto planes. And if it wasn't before, hopefully it's not your new fear after watching this video. If it is, I'm terribly sorry. Okay, bye.